Coach Woodson. I mean, you can't seem to get over the hump in Indiana, and they have significant NIL money too. And so, the talent was there for his team to, on paper to perform. But the Big Ten is a way different league. I mean, you just keep adding teams to it, it just gets tougher and tougher and tougher.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and on today's Throwdown Thursday edition, we're going to talk about jockeying for position for postseason play, both on the men's and women's side, and a lot of administrative notes. And we'll also introduce you to some of the tournaments that you're going to hope your team's a part of when they're not a part of the NCAA tournament. So let's just jump in and men's net rankings. Auburn's 1, Duke is 2, Houston's 3, Tennessee's 4, and Florida's 5. Couple of losses, though. We'll talk about that shortly. Top 5 mid-majors, Gonzaga, St. Mary's, BCU has jumped in, Utah State, and Robert is here. New Mexico is the 5th best mid-major. Teams to watch, Santa Clara, San Francisco, South Dakota State, and UNC Wilmington. Robert, our favorite administrator, is here. 1, who should be number 1 in your eyes with all the losses? And 2, tell the world about the West Coast. Talk to me, sir.
Remember that we're taping on Sunday. We're taping on Sunday. On Saturday, Auburn and Duke both went down. Alabama beat Arkansas. I can't remember by how much. So it's Alabama's probably going to be ranked number 1. I don't know how much that really matters at this point because the SEC teams are going to keep beating up on each other. It's not a bad thing for the ACC that Duke got beat by Clemson because those clearly look like the 2 best teams in the ACC. So, it's not a bad thing to have another team moving up in the ranking, in the net rankings, I guess. As far as the West Coast, New Mexico is 19. It's either 19 or 20-4. Their problem is going to be this: they have a quad 3 loss, they have a quad 4 loss. So that margin for error is non-existent for them. They cannot have another quad 3 or quad 4 loss. And the Mountain West has plenty of quad 3 and quad 4 teams. So danger, Will Robinson. You'd like to see conferences be multiple bid team, get multiple bids, but the Mountain West may only get 1 because of how things are shaken out in the SEC and the Big Ten.
All right. And fans, making his maiden voyage today, a person I have wanted on the show for quite some time, our financial consultant, college basketball, high school basketball, it doesn't matter. Aaron Goodman is here. Aaron, 1, thank you for joining us. And 2, who's number 1? And is there anybody you want us to keep our eyes on?
Thanks, Keith. It's a pleasure, man. I'm really excited to join and give a little bit of knowledge, but I want to defer to the 2 experts here. I love that Clemson went in and beat Duke. Clemson is always, Brad Brownell does a terrific job, with every one of his teams. I mean, he is probably the most underrated coach in the ACC. Doesn't get enough credit for the teams that he builds, and he's always, February is when teams kind of come together. It's when, and really with all this, with the portal and with NIL and all of these changes, like I just feel for coaches because your team is not your team when you get it in October, November, and December. I mean, you're just still trying to figure it out. And there's a lot of teams that are now, I think, have figured it out. And so I love, I really like Tennessee, but Houston to me is a great number 1 choice too. I mean, Calvin Sampson with his defense, I mean, just can't beat it. And Cal is doing some things in Arkansas. I think he's making headway. But I do like Alabama as well. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Houston take the top spot. It's a big jump, but I like what Calvin is doing.
Yeah, and Houston's old. We joke about Houston being old. They're
Houston,
grown men.
Houston's old, but they got to make free throws, man. That's gonna get them. That's gonna get
Yeah.
them.
All right. So, fans, we want to prepare you for March. And a lot of people don't know this. So, let the Odd Coaches podcast help you out. The college basketball crown. There is a new reimagined postseason college basketball tournament coming to Fox this spring. Yes, it is an advertisement. The college basketball crown is going to be a 16 team men's postseason tournament that will take place from March 31st to April 6th in Viva Las Vegas. And it's going to air on Fox and FS1. The tournament will feature schools from the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the Big East, in addition to at-large programs, participants. Teams that not make the NCAA tournament will be eligible for this event, with 2 automatic qualifiers coming from each participating conference and additional teams being chosen by a selection committee. So, what are we talking about with the NIT? Because everybody's like, wait a second, what about the NIT? The NIT has changed a little bit. The NCAA will distribute 16 bids to exempt teams meeting certain criteria. It's the second year that the NIT has gone to this format. Um, Historically, the NIT awarded bids to regular season conference champions who didn't make the NCAA tournament. However, that changed, and that's it's kind of not right. But this is a business, nothing personal. In addition to that, in addition to the college basketball crown, in addition to the NIT, you will also have the collegeinsider.com tournament. I'm very familiar and close with Joe and Angela and the people at College Insider. The CIT is a 16 team tournament that will begin March 18th with 14 pods. And each of the pods are named after coaching legends Hugh Durham, John McClendon, Lou Henson, and Jim Phelan. And finally, you'll have the CBI for the 17th year in a row. That is the College Basketball Invitational. That will take place March 22nd through 26th in Daytona Beach. So, Robert, we got problems in March. There's 68 teams in the big tournament, and then there's going to be a lot of middling crying teams that didn't make it. Are these now more of a consolation prize than just the NIT before? What are you thinking? Did you even know about the college basketball crown?
I had no idea. Never heard of it. Never heard of it. I mean, will I watch basketball if it's on? Yeah, I'll watch basketball if it's on. Um, I think it's interesting that we're trying to do this, and what is going to happen when teams don't make the tournament, right? Because when teams don't make the tournament, you're immediately going to have that's when the floodgates open, into the portal. So you might have teams that would be eligible to be selected for these tournaments, that wind up kind of like Marshall during bowl season. Remember, Marshall had to basically give up their berth in a bowl game because they didn't have enough guys because all their guys went in the portal. And I could see something like that happening in multiple occasions, in each of these tournaments. I think there will be multiple teams that do that. I really wish that some of them would, make sure that the little guys get an opportunity to play. But the little guys don't bring in any money, so that's where we are.
And Aaron used to coach in the Patriot League, if I'm not mistaken. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this because I don't know how familiar you were with the college basketball crown either.
Yeah, no, like Robert didn't had not heard of that. But I think they're making a big footprint by having it in Vegas. I mean, where would you rather be, in Vegas or at a conference? I mean, at a homeschool spot, like I,
Vegas or Dayton.
right, exactly. I mean, like, you're gonna, and especially with, the Big Ten and Big 12, SEC all having opportunities to have biz in that, I think that's going to dominate. Certainly the fans are going to travel for that. Um, you know, as a Patriot League school, they're beating up on each other. I follow that pretty closely, and I don't know who's coming out of that league. Like, it's been Colgate, but Colgate is getting worked in the league, and Americans at the top right now.
Go Dwayne.
Wayne Simpson's doing a great job. And then Army, Army is right up there too. I hate to say it, as a Navy guy, but Army is up there, and Army Navy play this weekend, coming up here, for the Star game. If you've never been to an Army Navy basketball game, I would recommend going. You come down to Annapolis, watch it. It's a terrific environment. I agree with Robert. Like, there are so many people that, or so many teams that are going to be missing, and then you have this slew of tournaments. Like, where do you go? I mean, the NIT, I think, is going to be second to the crown. I mean, why would you? It doesn't even seem like the NIT is even going to be able to compete with that type of tournament. But I could be wrong. It's funny. I went to see George Mason play yesterday. I went to see George Mason URI play yesterday. I tell you what, Mason is really good. And I think they play VCU here, maybe next week. And Mason, in my opinion, has the best big man in the conference. Jalen Haynes, he is terrific. Skin has done a great job with his defense and with his staff. I mean, Mason is real. Mason is real, and the A10 is, they're kind of beating up on each other too. But I could see, is there potential for maybe two teams to sneak out of there, like with Mason and VCU? But I'm really looking forward to that tournament. Plus, it's in DC. The A10 tournament's in DC this year, so
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of small conference schools that I really enjoy watching because my friends are either the head coach, or I have people on staff there. So, um, you know, just local here, and I love that Ed Cooley and Kenny, and he's got my man Kenny Johnson on staff, and Georgetown is actually going to be legit, but they got to run through Mr. Patino and,
Yeah.
and St.
And Will
John.
Cotton's not here for that.
Mm,
And Aaron, you brought up great points. It's one of the reasons why we like having coaches like you on, because we see a lot more than just the national media. And George Mason is doing an outstanding job. But once we start breaking down that 68, man, it's going to be really tough.
mm.
And part of that is it rarely ends well. So this week we found out that Indiana basketball coach Mike Woodson, who we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, is not expected to return to Indiana. And we also found out that Florida State's coach, Leonard Hamilton, is also going to step down at the end of the season. Two coaches we talked about. Robert, it rarely ends well. Any thoughts about both Woodson and Hamilton exit stage left?
Well, I mean, in Indiana just hasn't been able to figure it out for a number of seasons, and um, yeah, I actually have a couple of folks I know who are really, really big IU fans, and they're younger, so they don't really remember the glory days. They don't really remember that. And they think they should just be good because they're Indiana, and they
And
haven't
don't think
been.
football didn't hurt Mike Woodson.
Yeah, that they haven't been the Indiana that we remember from,
Big
Bobby Knight
Monday.
days. They haven't been that for a really long time. So I mean, it's a good job. They have money. People will support the program. Um, this to me is, I mean, I don't think Mike Woodson was ever a good fit because he was an NBA guy. They hired him because he's an Indiana guy. But I mean, this just begs the question: who are you gonna get? Who are you gonna get? And I don't have an answer to that. I guess we'll find out after the NCAA tournament when whoever takes their team to the Sweet 16, right?
I hate you because it's true. All right, Aaron, this is the best time and worst time for folks like us in the business. You've got guys already eyeing jobs. You got teams that are overperforming and people are eyeing their coaches. Both Woodson and Hamilton have stellar reputations as basketball people, but again, rarely ends well. Any thoughts as we close this segment?
Yeah, with Coach Woodson, I mean, it just you can't seem to get over the hump in Indiana, and they have significant NIL money too, and so the talent was there for his team to, on paper to perform, but the Big Ten is a way different league. I mean, you just keep adding teams to it, add teams to it. It just gets tougher and tougher and tougher, and Coach Izzo just sits up at the top, and love that Coach Willard at Maryland is Maryland is making headway there. So like that, and I have ultimate respect for Coach Hamilton. I mean, I think one of the best coaches of our generation. Continually developed NBA talent, continually was in the tournament, made some significant runs. Florida State was primarily a football school. I mean, it has been, and so for what Coach Hamilton has been able to do there, to leave a tremendous legacy, one of the, certainly should be a Hall of Famer. I just, I don't know who's gonna be able to replace that job or where they're gonna be. Like, where's Florida State gonna be? What conference are they gonna be in? Maybe that's a determining factor too. So, but if Coach Hamilton, can step out on his own terms. I think that's the right move for Florida State.
All right. So, fans, in segment two, we'll flip over to the women's game. We'll also talk about other postseason tournament opportunities for the women. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches Podcast. This is Dr. Keith Adams, president of the CKA Save Project and author of Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. This book is your key to unlocking the secrets of being a successful student athlete. Drawing from my 30-year career as a teacher and coach, this instructional guide offers a unique perspective on achieving success in both academics and athletics. With over 15 personal stories and insightful antidotes, Finding the Balance is a must-read for student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators. Visit www.ckasaveproject.org to get your copy and start finding the balance today. Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast in segment two. Let's get to the women's net rankings. Number 1, South Carolina. Number 2, UConn, but they may drop, but that was a heck of a game with Tennessee. 3, Texas. 4, UCLA. And 5, Notre Dame. Top 5 mid-majors, Richmond, Harvard, George Mason. That coach might be leaving soon. Okay, doing very well. South Dakota State and Columbia. Teams to watch. Tennessee is on fire. Oklahoma and Florida State. But let's get ready for March. What is the Women's Basketball Invitational Tournament, the WBIT? In 2023, the NCAA announced the creation of an annual 32-team postseason invitational tournament for women's basketball, which will be owned and funded by the NCAA. The Women's Basketball Invitational Tournament will be held annually beginning 2024. Okay, why was this created? The creation of the WBIT ensures the NCAA is providing equitable postseason opportunities for women's basketball, similar to that of men's basketball, which was a recommendation from the 2021 Gender Equity Report. NCAA supported men's and women's basketball postseason opportunities are now equitably available through a combination of the NCAA Division I men's or women's championship, which is 68 teams, and men's and women's basketball postseason invitationals, which are 32 teams. So the other things that the men are doing are separately financed. So before that comes up. Okay. So with the addition of the WBIT, how many postseason opportunities exist for women's basketball? Not including the 11 schools currently transitioning from D2 to D1. There are 349 women's teams that are playing. In 2024, with the addition of the WBIT, 100 postseason NCAA funded opportunities are available, and that's equal to the men in terms of 68 in the men's tournament and 32 in the NIT. With the two women's basketball events, the percentage of postseason opportunities for women's basketball is 28.7%. Okay. So the WBIT will have a selection committee, and formatting will be very similar to the NIT. So, Robert, we have postseason solid tournaments for the men and women opportunities. What are your thoughts? Are we moving in the right direction? Should more be done? Or let's see how this works out.
Well, I'd say let's see how this works out. I mean, it's great that it's okay. You're providing more opportunities for women's teams to play in the postseason. That's great. Okay. Now, WBIT semifinals and finals are going to be played in Indianapolis at Hinkle Fieldhouse, which is a cool place to play. But do you want to go to Hinkle Fieldhouse or do you want to go to Vegas? Seems like a missed opportunity to me. I don't know. And I get why the NCAA did that. Their office is in Indianapolis. It makes sense for them to host that there. I suspect, though, it's going to be very much the same with the WBIT as it is with the men's tournaments that are not the NCAA tournament. Teams that don't get in, there's going to be some people entering the portal, and I would expect that there will be a team or two that'll say, "That can't do it," or they'll get in, and they'll get boat raced because they're playing all of their walk-ons because everybody left. Again, I mean, will I watch it? Yeah, I sure will. But I'm gonna reserve judgment on that. How about that?
Okay. Aaron, again, you coached on the Division I level, you coached on Division III level. You're around both programs throughout your career. This is on your desk. What are your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, similar. Definitely want to see how it goes. I think it's when you think about what happened with football, like what Robert had mentioned about getting in the portal. I mean, isn't it easy for the NCAA just to move the portal back so you can't get in before these tournaments actually happen?
Wait a second. You mean aligning the academic calendar with the athletic calendar? Can
Maybe
that be done?
I would think it could be, I would think it could be. So, I not giving these opportunities, to teams at their full capacity, is really, really a disservice to the student athletes. It puts a lot of pressure on them, puts pressure on the coaches. They got to they got to pay attention to this stuff while they're potentially playing too. So I hope that there's some movement there. It just seems logical. And play in Vegas, man. Play in Vegas. I think that's the answer to a lot to a lot of problems. Like, it makes it a whole lot easier. Everybody wants to go to Vegas. So
Okay. All right. In segment 3, it has been an interesting week on the administrative side of college athletics. Can't wait to get our panel's thoughts about a lot of stories that happened. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches Podcast. This is Dr. Keith Adams, president of the CKA Safe Project, with a question for you. Are you passionate about supporting student athletes? If so, then become an official member of the CKA Safe Project and make a difference today. With your membership, you'll be able to help us provide essential academic and athletic support to underserved communities nationwide. Join us in empowering student athletes to achieve their full potential, both on and off the field. Together, we can build a brighter future through education and sports. Visit ckasafeproject.org and choose your membership level now. $25 is a bronze level membership, $50 is a silver level membership, and $100 is a gold level membership. Be a part of the change. Become a member of the CKA Save Project today. Welcome back to the Hot Coaches Podcast. And in segment 3, let's just say it's been an interesting week in terms of administration. Let's start with the SEC. The Southeastern Conference distributed an average of almost $52.6 million to the 14 full-year members for the 2023-2024 season, in a slight increase over the previous year, according to its tax filing. The league announced their revenue figures last week, and only Oklahoma and Texas will be getting a limited amount of money. And that's really not that limited. Okay. Also, good work if you can get it. Greg Sankey, the commissioner, made more than $4.2 million in compensation, as well as more than $68,000 in additional compensation from the SEC and related organizations. That was up from about $3.6 million. And yeah, he's doing pretty well too. Robert, let's compartmentalize and give your reactions to the SEC's payout. What are your thoughts on the SEC's payout to its member institutions?
So that's like NCAA tournament revenue, TV money, all of the sources of revenue at the Southeastern Conference made. Okay. So let's see, 52.6 million, 14 full year members. So that's 700 million. And then they gave Oklahoma and Texas about half of that, since they're still affiliate members or whatever. So you're talking about 750-ish million dollars that they dispersed. That's an insane amount of money. And it just shows, it just kind of goes to show you where we are, right? Because you know, all of this money that's being thrown around, NIL, you know, all of that stuff, it's hard to say, you know, it's hard to say school, you know, it's hard to say that schools don't have the money to pay coaches, to get the players they want. So don't ever let any of these schools say, oh, well, we don't have the money for that, because they have the money for whatever they want. It's a matter of how they choose to spend it.
All right. And Aaron, this is also a great opportunity to let our audience know the work you do. Aaron is a financial guy. So you got this across your desk, Aaron. What are your reactions as the professional who does this? And it's one of the reasons why we're so happy to have you as a show contributor.
Yeah, it's a nice balance sheet, I'd say. You know, creating financial game plans for people, you know, individually and families, is really important. But also, you know, at this level, like, I have conversations as part of my sort of outreach into colleges, speaking to student athletes, speaking to athletic departments about what to do with money. You know, kids 18, 22 years old. I mean, they're getting, you know, some of them, you know, maybe they're making $10,000, but at the highest level at the SEC, I mean, they're making millions, you know, and what do they do with that money? How do they understand taxes? All of that. How do you save and invest for your future? Because, you know, many of these student athletes, if they put some of their earned money into a Roth IRA and let it ride, and they're putting that, you know, for the next 10 years, they're going to be millionaires just flat out, just by doing that, you know, just with compound interest and the rule of 72, which is a great rule I like to impart on people. But, you know, this is massive amounts of money. And you think about, you know, the NCAA tournament makes, you know, whatever, makes $1 billion, but we're talking about $1 billion right now with just one conference. I mean, basically, And so you see where these Power Five conferences are going and why there's so much talk about separating themselves from the NCAA because they could do it on their own, and you can see why schools are so attracted and want to get into these conferences. Could you imagine, like, we're talking about payouts of 52 million. Why wouldn't you want to be in these conferences if you have the capacity to do it? So, um, you know, I'd love to be the person on the financial side, just advising, for a lot of these SEC schools for sure.
All right. So, the second thing that came up this week was no pay for play. The IRS has issued two more denial letters to collectives seeking 501c3 status. Uh, Midwinter, who is Kitty Hertz Perry attorney, friend of the show, notes that by providing compensation to student athletes for use for NIL, you confer impermissible amounts of private benefit. Therefore, you are operating for a substantial non-exempt purpose. Uh, that's not going to fly. So, with the collective situation ending for a lot of folks June 30th, and the the member institutions kind of taking over July 1st, it's a lot of craziness going on. And that craziness stems from the House settlement, which hasn't been formally approved. And there's a lot of objections to this. One objection came from James Madison's cross country coach, Rebecca Rixer, who talks about the fact that they recruit walk ons and walk ons often develop and outperform scholarship folks. So, with that being said, Robert, what are we doing, man? We've got SEC making money. We got the IRS telling collectives you're not a 501c3. You've got objections to the House settlement that are strong, legally based arguments. Other than it's a mess, what do you think, man?
Well, how many times have we said, what did you think was going to happen? Or, what could have possibly gone wrong? I mean, again, unforeseen circumstances here where they had no idea what was going to happen. And I still don't think anybody has any idea what's going to happen. I still don't believe that once the House settlement is approved, I still don't think anybody knows what that looks like. In the end, though, I hope, and it's probably misguided, but I hope that there is at least some consideration given to making sure that kids who are willing to go on their own dime and compete at the college level and put in the work and have the ability, that there's still a place for those guys. Because I think that's really what this cross country coach is talking about, is that you want to make sure that these kids who have put in the time and put in the work and have put in their own money because they're walk-ons, that they get an opportunity to compete, and that opportunity is not taken because of this settlement.
Yeah. Aaron, again, your perspective is unique. You've worked in a one bid conference. You've worked in Division III. Your student athletes. You're an emphasizer of both of finding a balance between academics and athletics. As you read these items, a little bit removed from your previous job, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it becomes harder for non-revenue based sports. I mean, now the admissions department, and how much school tuition actually costs now, I think is a big issue, and being able to afford college. But these non-revenue sports, they pay tuition, so they pay, they do contribute to the schools. So there is some validity there that hey, there's development here, especially in some of the sports where maybe recruiting is at a different capacity, like cross country, or maybe it's tennis, or maybe something like that, where students do have an opportunity to walk on and can improve, and maybe they were just late late bloomers. Maybe they didn't have the right coaching. All of that is really critical to to development, especially James Madison. You're talking about Coastal Athletic Conference. I mean, that's a legitimate mid-major program that all of a sudden their football program or their men's basketball program is is elite now, and so maybe they've got a little more revenue. But I just think you know you the Wild West was unleashed, and you we was just like, here you go, because I thought this was supposed to be about jersey sales. Like that's what I thought it was about in the beginning. It was like, oh, okay, well, people are buying your jersey, so you should get compensated for it. No, it's just about getting paid, and it's hard to scale back. Like once you unleash the floodgates, I think it's hard to scale back because there's always going to be opportunity, and there's always going to be people trying to game the system. If you try to scale it back. So I don't, I don't know.
Yeah. So for me, as someone who is an advocate for student athletes, each state and the Georgia law that they just passed, where NIL is not under state tax, man, that's quite an incentive. So if you got everybody doing something different, it it's not creating chaos, it's already chaotic. And we're at a position now that we do need federal intervention because as a former government teacher, I used to tell my students the answer is in the name of the course. I taught national, state, and local government. And as you ask the question, you find out which branch or which level has the most say, most influence, most power. And federal law will supersede state law. But man, it's just crazy out there. And I don't know if there's going to be action enough. But BYU basketball just signed the number one recruit. So they've got access. In the meantime, you've got football. Notre Dame and Ohio State read the answers to the test, and the SEC was blocked out of that. So we spoke last week or the week before about a new model guaranteeing teams being in it. We spoke earlier about a postseason college basketball tournament that's not the NCAA tournament that's stacking the deck for for power schools. So we need to do something, and something has to happen sooner rather than later. Robert, any final thoughts as we wrap up this week, sir?
Well, I mean, we have to do something. The only way that's going to happen is, I mean, it's where does the money come from? Because that's the underlying factor in all of this. Where is the money for that going to come from? Yeah. If there's no money, it's not going to happen.
That's some Nixon Watergate stuff right there. Follow the money. Aaron, wrap us up. Great first week, by the way. Any final thoughts before we close out?
I really appreciate the opportunity, Keith and Robert. It's great meeting you and getting to spend time with both of you. Yeah, I think once money is in play, and once people are used to receiving X amount of dollars, especially when we're talking, you know, close to billions, but multiple hundreds of millions of dollars, it's hard to give it back, And so I don't know what the balance is. I don't know how you attack it, except if through legislation to make things to make things more level playing field. I mean, is the only way to do it, to give schools opportunities to have X amount of dollars, and you have a salary cap just like you do in professional. I mean, I don't know. Like,
Yeah, no, you said something, and once you said cap, you saw how I went Pavlov because that's a word that will get the both sides of the aisle going back and forth. So I think that's a good place to pause since you said cap. So this was good. On behalf of our cavalcade of stars, I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the Odd Coaches podcast, and we'll see you on the sidelines. Until next time, take care.
The Odd Coaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA SAVE Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach Franchize. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches Podcast.